Welcome to Event Experience by Bizzabo, the podcast where we bring the best and brightest event experience leaders together to share stories, tips, and lessons learned from creating some of the world's biggest events. I'm Rachel Moore, your podcast host. In this episode, we dip our toes into our first love on this podcast, event technology, with Jen Santos, founder of Smart Event Academy. Buckle up as we chat about the importance of operational readiness, creating a collaborative culture within event teams, and understanding ROI beyond just financial metrics. Jen also addresses common misconceptions about event tech, which you'll want to avoid for your very best event experience. Welcome back, everyone. We are in for a new episode of Event Experience, and I am your host, Rachel Moore, as always. And today's guest has a wealth of expertise over her career of project management. Of course, that is something that so many event planners have, whether they officially acknowledge it or not. Project management is big, marketing, but also event tech strategy. Having supported brands like Microsoft, BW Events Tech, and T-Mobile, today she is the founder of Smart Event Academy, the place where event professionals skill up, collaborate, learn, and share industry best practices to deliver world-class digital events. You can tell I already love this because this is exactly what the whole purpose of this podcast and the show is. So we are going to get along great. I am thrilled to welcome Jen Santos to Event Experience. Jen, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Rachel. I am so happy to be here today. And I love the wonderful introduction that you gave to me. Yes, I've been doing general IT consulting for probably far longer than I want to admit, 3 decades and counting. And then I moved into event tech almost 15 years ago, cutting my teeth on, little events like the tier ones at Microsoft. And they've never quite let me go since then. And then I have a lot of work. I have CES coming up really, really soon now this year. And I believe that event tech is super, super powerful and is becoming more and more important as we go further into events. And I also feel like it's a bit of a much maligned and misunderstood portion of events because events are marketing focused and techies are techie. And we have like this language problem that is important to overcome. And that's like one of my goals here with the Academy, and actually sitting here talking to you is to help with that.
I love that. And you hit it spot on. And obviously, again, in more ways than one, special place close to our heart. This podcast is hosted by Bizzabo, which is an event technology platform. So we are all about the people who make it easier for everybody to delve into that world and tap into it, even if they're not particularly tech savvy. But again, that's why we have you on the podcast. Real quick, too, I know I shared a super brief bio about you, and you gave us a little bit more insight about your background and stuff. What else can you tell us about yourself, about your day-to-day, your role as the founder of the Smart Event Academy? Just give us a little bit more info so our audience can get to know you a little bit more.
Yeah, happy to. So I still do a lot of event delivery. I work on everything from I still do a little bit on the Microsoft tier ones, other tier one events. I mentioned CES, 140,000 people, nothing small about that one. So I still do a lot of event delivery because I really believe that even though I'm moving into more of an advisory role, you have to keep your feet on the ground. You have to know what's going on. This industry moves so fast. And then what I'm doing with Smart Event Academy is that I've also seen, particularly coming out of the pandemic, that we lost so many people during the pandemic, so many good people that were like, I have to put food on the table and I have to leave the industry. Yeah. And so we had this whole boatload, for lack of a better term, of people that showed up. And they may be smart project managers, but they don't know events, right? Or they know one portion of events, but they don't have the big picture. And I'm like, I've been doing this for so long. Yeah. And I have such a passion for the people side of it that I really want to help these people level up, right? And so the Smart Event Academy is really based on creating this community, helping our event community through the lens of event tech kind of level up so that we can deliver smarter events without us having to go to a wild amount of heroics.
Again, speaking the language, because that's what literally every person watching this show who's a fan of the show is like, yes, more of that, please. But thank you so much for sharing that too. And it's great to kind of hear all the expertise you're bringing to bear in your day-to-day, but also what we're going to learn about on the podcast here. And you actually segued perfectly because I want to get into some personal, a little more get to know you questions here. You talked about, hit the ground. You like to be on the ground. And, when you're on the ground for multiple hours on end at any event, it kind of matters what's on your feet. So please enlighten us. What are your go-to on-the-ground event day shoes that keep you going for hours on end?
That's a great question. Being an event tech, we don't have to put on like the 500 miles that the regular logistics people do. So
Right.
thankful that I have that role. But my go-to shoes are Skechers. And I know
Mm,
everybody gives me the side eye, but they're
mm.
Skechers all the way.
I am a huge fan of Skechers, and y'all, you can side eye us through whatever your device you're listening to this on. We do not care. We live and die by our Skechers, fellow Skechers fan. Yeah, I love them. I still remember this is again personal anecdote. I've like had my foot recovered from surgery all the way to like I know I need to be like again maybe be on the ground for a work event, and I'm like I'm wearing Skechers. I'm gonna be comfy and. They never fail me. So ringing endorsement from me, obviously, but I love that you brought that up. Thanks for that recommendation. And I know we've got some fellow Sketcher fans out there.
We
So
do. They may be
you,
hidden, but they're there.
that's right. Comment,
They're
y'all.
closeted. They're
Let us
closeted
know.
Skechers fans.
That's right. Let us know. We've got you. We got you. Is there anything that you're listening to, watching, or even reading these days that you cannot put down? And it doesn't have to be events related.
I am obsessed, beyond obsessed with the Emily Wilde series. It's cozy fantasy. And every time I talk about it, people look at me like I'm a little bit weird because I'm like, yeah, the book is called The Encyclopedia of Fairies. And people are like, I didn't think you were a fairy person, Jen. I'm like, well, no, I'm not a fairy person, but it's just this Emily, she is this researcher out of the UK who has been studying like otherworld creatures that live here on Earth, but they're like these creatures that we never get to see. And she's been devoted her entire career to it. And so she goes on these quests and to learn more about these creatures. And so it's like literally her and her field notes. And I read the entire 3-book series and I found out last night prepping for this interview that a book 4 is coming out and I nearly lost it.
Oh.
So that's my favorite. And then I feel like I should like, and I don't, is the Murder Brat series. I have tried so many times and I can't get behind it.
Yeah, that's so real. Y'all, I'm going to confess, I've tried Breaking Bad twice. Maybe there'll be a time when I'm in a particular mood and I can push in past like the second episode. I can't do it, maybe at least right now. So please understand, sometimes things are just not for everybody in a particular moment in time or something like that. But I'm going to tell my daughter about that Emily Wilde series because I think she would find that fascinating. That sounds, and who doesn't love an escape, right? Where it's just like, let me delve into this world that you're taking these notes on and just get into that. So thank you so much for that recommendation too. Is there a particular social post or a piece of media or even a hot take about events that you found interesting lately?
I think like the acquisition sprees that are happening is a big one, right? I just see the C-Vent Goldcast thing was just this week, but the one that's really caught my eye is the Bending Spoons. And they're like whole suite of acquisitions recently, right? They've done Eventbrite. That just happened a couple of weeks ago. StreamYard, Hopin, Meetup, Bright Cove. And I'm like, what are they trying to do over there? And because they also have like Evernote, which does not fit at all. And they have some other tools that really don't seem to fit at all. And I like this is where skeptical Jen is like, I feel like they're probably trying to get into this event space. And having been an event tech professional for many, many years, you can't just bolt these things together and expect them to work, right? Like Bizzabo, your whole thing is the event operating system, right? You can't just bolt together whatever badge provider with whatever CMS and whatever front end and just think it's going to work. And so I'm really intrigued to see like 2, 3, even 5 years out what Bending Spoons ends up doing with this set of acquisitions and if they're going to try to like take on like you guys and Rain Focus and all those guys or they're just going to leave them as independent tools.
It is super interesting, especially like you said, when you kind of see these separate platforms or separate apps or, tech that you're like, all right, I'm trying to see the correlation here. What's going on? So, and gosh, I know everyone who's a fan of the show too. I mean, if you're paying any attention to social feeds, and I get it, you guys were busy, so it's kind of hard sometimes to pay attention to what all the chatter's about. But yeah, seeing these kind of moves happening and wondering what the outcome's going to be, and probably not immediate, but you just never know. And so it is definitely something to kind of be on the edge of your seat about. Just be like, okay, and then sleuthing it out, trying to figure out, okay, what's going to happen. We'll have to like have you back maybe in the next year or two, be like, okay, did we find out like what's going on? What was the end result for that? So, or what was the next frontier for all these things? So thanks so much for that. This was great. Yeah. Because we just want to like kind of, what's the buzz going on in your brain? And speaking of which, let's tap into your brain for a little while here. Everyone listening to and watching this show wants to put on a successful event. I'm sure, your Smart Events Academy, those are the people you're running into all the time. They're like, we just want to be successful. what we're doing, whatever that event's respective goals might be. And we hear from guests all the time on what aspects they think makes for a successful event. Would love to ask you, can you share with us what things that you think are crucial pillars to event success? So anything that stands out to you is like, these are the must-haves.
Yeah, like when I think about what makes an event successful, I mean, yeah, sure, you've got your tech and logistics and F&B and the venue and all that stuff, right? And that's all really good. But like if you go underneath that a level, that's like where my brain lives. And the first thing I think about is ROI. And that's a big thing in the industry right now. But it's like,
Mhm.
honestly, like, why are we even doing this?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what is the objective? And it shouldn't be 22,000 attendees. It should be like, what is the business driver that is making us hold this event? And what does success looks like? Like that is the big one for me when I think about our hosting organizations. And then when I think about how we're going to create these successful events, the next place my brain goes is really around the culture and the people that are putting on the events, right? I feel like, we tend to get a little overlooked in terms of having a great attendee experience, but it's super important because if we are relying on heroics and totally burned out, we're never going to put on an exceptional event. It might
Right.
look good on the surface, but we're leaving things on the table we could have done because we didn't have the bandwidth, we didn't have the culture that we needed, we didn't get the right inputs at the right time to deliver the event that we know we could have delivered.
Yeah.
And that just guts me every single time. And then the third one I will give you is very much related to that, but I think of it as operational readiness, which is like this idea of let's make it as boring as possible, right? Let's get our documentation ducks in a row. Let's get all of our processes organized. Let's have all of our templates, our checklists, because on site is chaos. It is mayhem. Mayhem is the word I
Mhm.
prefer to use. Sorry about that. And so let's make all of the prep and all of the things we already know about as boring, as simplified, and operationalized as possible. So
Yeah.
we have the space to do the surprise and the delight, to worry when a road is unexpectedly closed, right? When a keynote runs 15 minutes over, all those things that happen that like throw us for a loop. So we have the space to deal with it.
Yeah. And those 3 tie so well together too, because if you take it from the operational readiness side, you're so exactly right. I mean, particularly event planners, and y'all, we realize there are other people and other areas of expertise that really operate the same way. And I love too, your history as a project manager really speaks to this. Having the plan, and what is that saying? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. But it's not just that. You are having all that stuff at the ready. And like you said, oh, it may seem really boring on paper, but you're planning ahead because you know the unexpected can and will happen. Or what if it's not even bad unexpected? Maybe it's like, y'all, could we pivot with this really quick? This was a great idea, or this is an opportunity to write here. We've got the space to do it because we planned everything. We have the
Right.
room and the capacity, which then ties into the culture and the people. Can they feel like, yeah, we all were on board with getting this executed? We did plan ahead. We've got the logistics all in place, but now we've got the ideas and the creativity and the support systems there and the resources to make something special happen, maybe even beyond what you planned. And then, of course, that all leads back to, like you said, the initial pillar, which is ROI. It's like, why are we even doing this? What is success going to look like? Not just about registration numbers or attendance numbers, but it's like, how is this moving the needle for the business? I mean, I do think of that like kind of 3-legged stool thing. It's like, that's a great foundation to stand upon to make sure that your event is successful. And I'm sure everybody watching too has their own ways that they try to tackle those things, but, really is meaningful to kind of see that, man, if you pay attention to those 3 things, that actually really covers quite a bit of everything else that you're paying attention to, right?
Yeah, I really think it does. And I love what you said about creating space for like other things, right? Like the ability to do like the surprise and delight elements, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, we actually have a little bit of time. Like, what if we can go and bring out like an ice cream cart, right? Like, what if we, and then suddenly this just shows up because suddenly we had a little bit of extra budget because we
Yeah.
planned well and we've got a little bit of extra time and there's an ice cream person right around the corner. And it's like, I mean, like, how fun is that?
It's so fun.
You
Well,
know?
and I wanna dig more into this than operational readiness, tackling that first. You mentioned make it boring. Can you describe a little bit more? What does operational readiness look like to you? Like, if you're to say, "Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone, and friends and family, we are operationally ready." What does that look like to you?
It's one of those things like you hear like a McKinsey say, we're doing operational readiness, organizational change, right?
Yes.
And those words have no meaning really, except that when I think about operational readiness, they do. We're taking operations, which is like just the plodding along and executing the event, and we're making it ready to go. We're making it so we are ready. So when the lights come up on day one, and in many cases before, right, that we are ready to go. So it is getting your ducks in a row so we have our processes. And so the things I think about, again, I have the event tech lens, right? But it's getting your documentation and your SOPs in place. So having a rock solid run of show that includes everything. Like, I know that a lot of times AV production is a lot of it. That's a big one. And when I do my hybrid events, it's a big one, but it's literally everything. So when I think about that, I'm like, what time do surveys come on? What time is the first app push notification? What time should this happen? What time are we unlocking this door? And every different group, mine again is event tech, but every different group should have their own overly detailed run of show. Because, like, for example, if I know that, okay, so this session's going to start at noon, I need to verify captions, I need to verify this, I need to verify that. Oh, guess what? I have 15 minutes. I can go to the bathroom. Like, it sounds really silly, but like, if you have a run of show, you actually know when you can go to the bathroom or hunt down a snack. Like, and snacks should never be underrated. And so you've got your dry run. You need to have rock solid business requirements, which I see frequently getting skipped. And I will tell you, on a small event, I'm equally guilty of doing that as other people. I probably should air my dirty laundry, but here we are. And then going back to the ROI, it's like, what does success look like? And that's not even just at an event level, but it's even like at a team level. So I look at with my teams, like, have we managed to reduce the number of tickets that we have on any given topics? It's people not being able to log in or not being able to find something. I just had a search thing come in like moments before this recording, and I'm like, oh, got to get a ticket in for that. Completely missed that one this year. But knowing what success looks like. And for me, a big one is reducing the number of support tickets I see every year.
Yeah.
And then I also think about pre-mortems and post-mortems. And so if you don't know what a pre-mortem is basically this idea of assume you're going to fail, right? Assume something is going to go wrong. And then what is your plan B for it going wrong? So for example, a couple years ago, I had an event in Atlanta and a hurricane decided to show up just randomly. And so like literally, like, we're 2 days out and I'm starting to watch the news, and I wasn't there, but I'm starting to watch the news. And I'm like, I got my teams flying in. Are we still good to hold this event? And so I started badgering my client. I'm like, are we doing this event? Are we not? Can you please create comms and tell me what the timeline is for when we're calling it a go or a no-go, right? And guess what? It was after close of business when they decided it was a no-go, but we had our emails approved. Everybody was on board. The timeline was set. I mean, that's a little bit of a radical pre-mortem, but like, these are important things to do, is to think ahead. So it's not 7:00 at night and we're all scrambling and getting on a Zoom call to figure out what the plan is now. I had that thing locked at like 2:00 in the afternoon. We had the emails ready to go. I just needed to call my person and say, hey, send it. We're done. So, and the postmortems, we're all familiar with those: postmortem, debrief, wrap up, whatever we're going to call it. But that's the look back. And then I think the other really important thing for me with events, particularly with larger organizations, is this idea of having this culture of a year-round event. And so when in an event tech stack in particular, so that we have our event tech roadmap. We know what our roadmap looks like. It's okay. We couldn't do it for this event, but now we know we've got a little bit of breather before the field marketing series starts. You know what? So we're going to slot in to get this work done, and then we can do that. And so we're looking, okay, that's a Q2 project. That's a Q3 project. And so we're continually looking ahead and treating it like a product, right? Bizzabo itself, it's a product. A lot of us just use the SaaS products, but we can treat our delivery as if it is also a product. And so we can roadmap in the types of features that Bizzabo is a complex product, for example, right? So people can't always flip everything on at one time. It's like, well, no, now we need to figure out how this is going to work with auth and then payment and then the sponsor system and everything. And so it's not just a matter of flipping on feature flags and calling it a day. And then I would also say, related to that, is giving yourself time to deal with the tech debt. And so what I mean by tech debt is we turned on all these feature flags. Guess what? That didn't go the way we wanted it to. And so we need to roll that stuff back out. We don't just leave like attributes floating around that we aren't using anymore, because then somebody new comes on the team and they're like, oh, hey, look, hey, we already have this flag for this attendee type. Well, yeah, but it's not hooked up to anything.
Right.
right? So it's
Right.
getting it documented. And then ideally, if you can, pulling it out of the system or renaming it like DNU or something like that. So people aren't trying to use things that don't actually work.
Yeah. Oh
You know,
my gosh.
taking out your deprecated features at that point.
We'll be right back with more event experience after the break. Ever wished your event badge did more than just display your name? Whether you're an event organizer, exhibitor, or attendee, Bizzabo's Click Smart Badge transforms the event experience. From interactive networking to real-time attendee insights and lead capture, the Smart Badge is the ultimate game changer. Visit bizzabo.com/click. That's bizzabo.com/KLIK to learn more about the next generation of wearable event technology. Bizzabo, your partner for building conferences that captivate. We're back with Jen Santos to get into the who, what, when, where, how, and why of our events. It's so easy to look at an event like, okay, everything's just, just focus on execution. And yes, do postmortems, do the wrap up and things like that. But we can often forget about some of the things like, okay, well, are we dialing back those other pieces? Because remember, and this kind of drives to the tech part, we're using a lot of the same tools we're going to keep using throughout the year, not just for that event. But, you get into like that data and you want clean data, accurate data. And, again, it's not just the event team. It's not just the marketing team that's dealing with all that data. Sales, it's ops and whatever, and other people in your company to make sure that they're part of helping keep the data clean too. But thank you so much for pointing that out because, just making sure you're mapping everything out like that. And yeah, as far as like, this sounds like a major undertaking to map everything out like that. Do you have any quick trick or anything that you do for like making sure you do map stuff out for a whole 360 degrees?
Yeah, I do actually. And so what I like to teach in my courses and with my students and my colleagues actually is even this system that I call the Smart Event 360.
Nice.
And so fancy name, but what it is, it goes all the way back to middle school. At least for me, it was middle school. The journalism, who, what, when, where, why, and how, right?
Yeah.
And it translates really, really nicely to our world. So if we take a marketing website, for example, who is this marketing website for, right? Like, do we really need it to write it directed to the people that are coming back for the fifth time? Or should we trying to favor our first time attendees or our big name speakers that we want to bring in? Like really thinking about who our audience is and then what do we need them to know and when? I'm going to tie those together in this example, right? Do we really need to provide all the travel and logistics information in February for an August event? Probably not.
Right.
Nobody's going to look at it until they're getting on a plane. Let's be honest, right? So who, what, when, where. So again, this is kind of like, where's the event taking place? Where do we need this information in terms of an information architecture flow?
Yeah.
Going back to the why are we doing this? Are we trying to convert people to sign up? Are we also actually trying to get people to self-select out? I think that's a big one that a lot of organizations don't think about.
Yeah.
No organization's for everybody. And if they're saying they are, they're wrong. And then how are we going to do that? Right. That kind of very much gets down into the nuts and bolts, but that's where we have our project plan and everything where we've kind of laid out how we're going to make this happen. What are the design tools that we're going to use? What's the technology? How are we mapping this into our MarTech stack?
Yeah.
All that sort of stuff.
Very awesome. Yeah. And thanks for giving that guidance too, because it can sound obviously always be like, oh my God, yes, I need to be doing all this stuff. Great. How do I go about starting? And so thanks for getting to those fundamentals. I want to also dig into one of the other pillars you talk about, which is culture. Enlighten us a little bit here. Like, are we talking about culture of the event team or the culture of the audience or even like the culture of the broader events industry? Like when we talk about culture, when you refer to culture, like as one of the three main things for event success, to take us on that journey, what are we talking about when it comes to culture?
The journey. I'm specifically referring to the culture of that events team because different teams are very different. Now, there's an industry part of that culture, like the burnout, the heroics, right? That's just like an industry thing, like 60 hours a week. That's just what we do. I would again argue that it shouldn't be that way. And there's a lot at play. But what I'm really referring to is the culture of that events team. And when I think about that, I always start with most of these larger organizations that I work in, they have their internal team, and that was what I call the hosting organization, right? But then most of them were all built with contractors. You have your logistics team, you have your vet tech team, you've got your transportation team. A lot of times you can have 10, 15, 20 different vendors working on a show depending on the size of the show.
Yeah.
And we all succeed or we fail as a team. It is that simple. Our
Yeah.
attendees don't care whose fault it is. And you can bet the person paying the bills doesn't care whose fault it is. They just know that the AV didn't work on the keynote. Not to pick on AV, but it's what came to mind, right? But they don't care. They don't care if the problem was the power wasn't run, or it doesn't matter. It didn't work. And our attendees and our executives are upset. And so I think a lot about this idea of, we all succeed or fail as a team. We are a village putting this event on. And as such, we have to work together.
Yeah.
It's this culture of collaboration where we're not hiding info from our other suppliers because we're worried that they're going to take our business, which I actually don't really ever see in practice. What I actually find is the opposite, which is when you have two different quote unquote competing suppliers or vendors that tend to work well together. Guess what? They're brought back to work well together because most companies are not large enough to do everything by themselves.
That's right.
And probably shouldn't be. And so it's the idea of sharing the information, sharing your workbacks across the different teams for these cross-team dependencies. This totally bit us on a tier 1 event that I did last summer. The logistics team assumed one thing and they didn't talk to the tech team. So we didn't have our network drops done in time. And anyway, it was a whole thing. But that's an example of where it's really, really important to have that information being shared across the teams in a timely manner. I love it when an organization will put up like one general Google Drive or SharePoint or something like that where we can all point to the same place. And then ideally there's even like a dashboard that says, hey, you're looking for this, start here, right? And you can just go down that rabbit hole. It's not just a flat set of folders, because that mostly makes me want to cry.
Gosh, if you just think about just any company out there too, where it can be so easy to have silos develop, where, well, you don't worry your pretty little head about what we're doing over here. We're focused on what we're doing. And that can lead to so much problem too, because if you're not aligning right from the get-go, and then, you got to speaking kind of a little operational readiness, then you get people coming in late to what they're expecting out of this event or what they're hoping that it's going to tackle, or getting surprised by, well, I didn't realize that's what our goals were, or I didn't realize you were going in this direction. But rather, as you're saying, making it a village, all collaborating, not being special or precious about, oh, well, we don't want to like talk to you yet. We're not ready. It's like, no, come on. We can all help each other. Let's go. And I, this is a human industry, and humans are all going to be different. I mean, you and I are different. We might like have our different like special ways that we have types that we work across different things. But I would imagine, things like ego and hubris even, and even people feeling like they're taking a risk or they're being vulnerable probably has something to play in this, right?
It absolutely does. And that's something I talk about a lot. I'm always like, peopling is just hard, right? And I feel like honestly, when you go back to ROI, I actually think that's a big part of it. People don't want to, if you think about like different business units in a larger org, they don't want to say, we need to hit this goal, because then if it doesn't get met, somebody's going to look bad.
Yeah.
Right. And so they're a little afraid to like make the commitment that we're going to have, so they go with big numbers that are, in my opinion, less meaningful because it's something that they don't have as good of control over. So you can say, I want to have 22,000 people on site or 1,400 training sessions, right? The 1,400 training sessions, that gets a lot closer. If you're in that group, that hits a lot closer to home. And that's where, the peopling and the vulnerability really, really comes into it. And I think also it's like having that respect for, what, somebody's just having a bad day, and understanding that and going, okay, I have an old client who used to say, assume positive intent. Right. And so you get a bad message, a snippy message. It's like, for all you know, the dog is throwing up on the floor right now.
That's right.
Like, and it's like, they don't mean to be that way, but that's just what's coming out.
Yeah.
And so really trying to go and assume positive intent and know that people, for the most part, we're all just trying to do our best and serve the people that we're there to serve.
Yeah.
And just showing up with a lot of grace. And I think that makes all the difference in the world.
Grace being the key there is absolutely correct. And just remembering we all are human, like you said, and that best intention is absolutely crucial. So very much appreciate that. Yeah, we're a human industry. We're humans working in a human industry for humans. And so,
Yeah.
but we're also, and this segues us to that third pillar, ROI. And I know you've really emphasized this throughout our discussion. Why are we even doing this? But I want to ask if you could also do something you did with operational readiness. You really broke down what do these words actually mean in this phrase? Because
Yeah.
they do mean something. Can you do the same for ROI? Because I think we all know in our heads what ROI stands for and what the words are, but what does it mean?
So ROI, right? The acronym is return on investment. Simple. And I think I see many people think of it strictly as money. And I think the investment goes a lot deeper than just the money, right? It is the
Yeah.
time that is being spent. It is the energy that's being spent. It is, if you're throwing an event, you need to pull in product people. Guess what? You're pulling in those product people. You're taking them away from actually doing product development so that they can develop a talk, right? And so it's not just about the, say, $40 million that you're spending. It is actually a lot bigger than that. And what you're looking for is the return on that investment, right? Is the time, money, and energy being well spent? And this is, again, why you're doing this. So are you getting the return in terms of brand awareness? Are you advocating for the cause you care about? Are you getting the qualified leads or the pipeline movement that you were expecting? Are you doing the training that you were expected to do so you can eventually get those qualified leads? Is it solely a revenue play?
Yeah.
Maybe you're looking to build community, trying to up your brand reputation. I mean, there's a million reasons why a company could be, or organization, I wouldn't even say a company, is
Sure.
hosting an event, and not all of them are related to necessarily making money.
Yeah. That's such a great point. It's not just about dollars. And I think that's easy. I even say the phrase a whole lot on this podcast, bottom line. It's always about bottom line. A business has a bottom line and they're always going to come back to, yep, dollars, because that's an easy thing to track. Well, I might be making that way too patent and easy on that, but it's something that everybody recognizes, and you've got, if you've got a board or, your shareholders and your executives, everybody's concerned about that. But it's so key for you to talk about the investment of the resources and the time. And you're absolutely right. Like, we can all think of this, y'all, where maybe we have worked for a brand, or even we've been a consultant or a contractor for a brand where, oh, well, we need a speaker on this topic. Let's just pull John from this department and have him, oh, he's spoken before. Well, guess what? You are pulling him away then. Is John typically, like, is he peer 100% of the time professional speaker? No, probably not. He's probably got his own title, his own job duties that he's doing, and a team he works with. And that you really are looking at it saying, great, if I'm pulling John over here away from what he's doing, what his team is working on, you've got to evaluate that. And so I think it's so, I really appreciate you expounding on that too, because it's like, this isn't just about dollars or whatever currency you're working with and trying to achieve. It is about the time and energy that everyone involved is putting into it, and your attendees too, right? It's
Yeah.
like everybody's making an investment in this event to some degree. And are they all getting a return? And I think too, I mean, just a quick shout out to data, because you've got to know like where your baseline is before you know if you went above it or you didn't hit it. And so just making sure you're tracking all that, right, is really important.
Totally. Yeah. And the attendee side of it, right? You've got the ROI, or some people call it ROE, which is the return on experience. But again, if you're asking people to leave their families behind, leave their job behind, leave their calls behind for one or more days, it
Yeah.
has to be worth it.
Yeah.
And so it's the money spent, it's a time that's spent away from thing. It's actual, like, even discomfort for a lot of people when you start thinking about people with accessibility issues,
Yeah.
neurodivergent, right? Introverts. I'm a massive introvert. And so it's kind of like, can you just leave me in my event tech corner, please?
Yeah.
Right. And so you have, like, you take all of these kind of, I'm going to call them like the negatives, the bring down ROI. That's your investment, right?
Yeah.
So you need to have the return that's going to make it worthwhile. So you're learning something, or you're building relationships, or you're seeing friends, which again, I guess is building relationships. You're building a community, but you need some sort of return to
Mhm.
make it worthwhile.
Let me ask you this question. One thing I love about our discussion, I think you've challenged a lot of assumptions some of us can have. And it all comes from that, which I love, your whole mentality is educating and really helping us, okay, understand everything so that we can fix it and make it better and be better at it. I want to ask you this. If you could change, if there's a misconception or a misassumption that the events industry keeps making about event tech, and again, this comes close to our heart. Bizzabo over here is an event tech platform. If you could change one assumption that's wrong about event technology, what would it be?
I would say that the assumption that people make that I think is not wrong is that the problem is actually the tech. I believe that most of the time, the tech is rarely the root cause. The real problem is going to be the people and the processes around it, which is why I am so passionate about the ROI, the people and the processes around it, because I feel like that tends to come down on the event tech professionals. And so it's a little bit of self-defense, to be perfectly honest, but it's around how the decisions are made, who owns what, whether the team is actually set up to use the tool well, And so what I end up hearing is, oh, we've got the wrong tool. Oh, it's too complex. Oh, it's too simple, or it's too expensive for what we get. And it's like, you know what? Probably not, actually.
Right.
It's that you are not properly equipped. You and your organization are not properly equipped to use the tools that you have. And let's
Yeah.
fix that.
Yeah, it's such a great point. And yeah, again, you think I referred earlier to where people might, hey, we're not going to be part of the process yet or something until it's like way down the lane here. The same thing can happen with technology. Like people, maybe your event team is like, hey, we're going to bring this tech on. We've evaluated it. We've really explored it. It's going to be great. But then you get someone later in who wasn't part of those discussions, wasn't part of the assessment, and doesn't understand how the tech works. And they're like, well, this doesn't work. And it's like, hold please. It actually does. Let's go look at it. But you're so right. A lot of this can come back down to maybe just misunderstanding it, or maybe not,
Yeah.
you weren't part of it. You need someone to explain it to you. And that, again, not to, I'm tooting pretty much any vet tech's horn where they're just like, let's help you. We have people to help you understand that stuff. And you're someone who does that too, as part of, by nature, what you do in your profession. So just a huge advantage to have someone like you in someone's back pocket to be like, tell us how this works. Does this actually work with what we need? And you can be like, yeah, it really does. So I
Yeah.
love that. We've heard a lot about Smart Events Academy, Smart Event 360. So my final question is going to load this up for you. Where can our listeners find and follow you online, and tell us about where to do that?
Absolutely. So I am on LinkedIn most days, LinkedIn Jen Santos. You can find me. I'm pretty much the only Jen Santos out there. Benefit of a Brazilian last name and American first name. And then I'm also on smarteventacademy.com. And that's where you can learn about my Smart Event Core program, where I talk about all of these topics, teach the Smart Event 360, and so much more.
Jen's advice to help us all skill up our events is to bring some Alice in Wonderland mentality to our approach.
I would say it's coming in with a mindset of curiosity. If you can bluntly get out of your own way, ask the questions for the things you don't understand, use the Smart Event 360, who, what, when, where, why, and how, right? The event world can be your oyster if you are just willing to ask the questions. There are so many really wonderful, generous people in this industry that are more than happy to share what they know. And if you can show up that way and just be open to learning, I think that you have tremendous potential.
Thanks again to Jen Santos for joining us on Event Experience. And thank you for listening. If you're enjoying the show, we'd love to hear it. Connect with us on social and subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you're listening. Also, don't forget to share the show with your colleagues and friends. You can find transcripts of each episode and key takeaways on bizzabo.com/podcast. On behalf of the team, thank you. We'll gather again soon for a new episode of Event Experience.